It happens to all of us. We get into a little struggle with our students from time to time, and we even need to carry out some extended disciplinary procedures. That's what we're talking about in just a moment. Do you want to improve your classroom management skills? Do you want to increase student engagement? How about amplifying student success? If these are things you're interested in, you've come to the right place. Welcome to Things That Work. I've talked about the hallway conferences in an earlier video. Very important because it is a huge part of what we're talking about today. Resolving classroom conflict is something we all have to deal with as teachers, and how we deal with it is a major part of how successful our classroom management will be. Here is what I'm going to start with, just some basic groundwork. Students should always be held accountable for their behavior, both good and bad. If you create a culture of ownership, your discipline procedures will be more effective when they have to take place. The first and most important thing for effective conflict resolution in your classroom is you have to know the student. You've got to have a relationship with your students, even, yes, those students that you may not like that much. Let's face it, we see hundreds of students a year and we don't like them all equally. However, we love all of our students. So here is the point. You've got to know your students, know what they're interested in, know what drives them, know kind of a little bit about where they're coming from. That will help you put into context the behavior that you've encountered that is not what you want. So know those students and understand them and have that relationship. That's the first, one of the most important things that you can do on your way to resolving classroom conflict. Second, and this is where the video about hallway conferences really comes into play. If you've already looked at it, fine. If not, then it's up above. You can check it out. Those hallway conferences are a method of changing the setting. And that is the second part of this, is you want to change the setting. Don't handle discipline there at the student's seat. Change the setting. I consider the hallway to be as close of a neutral area as possible. The classroom should be yours. The seat may be theirs, and so you kind of have a conflict of territories at that point. So when you are trying to resolve conflict, move to the closest neutral area, which in my case and most cases will be the hallway, and have that hallway conference that we talked about in the other video. Number 3, be sure and get to the problem quickly. The closer to the altercation, the closer to the conflict, the closer to the problem that the correction can take place, the more effective your discipline is going to be. So make sure that you address the problem as quickly as possible. It may require getting the rest of the class focused and working on a project, working on something, reading something, doing problems. Whatever it requires, you need to get the class focused on something and get to the problem quickly. Stop for a moment. Assess your frustration level. Make sure that you are not so frustrated you might fly off the handle and say something that you would regret. Make sure that you are in control. So take a moment. After sending the student into the hallway to wait for you, take a moment to collect yourself. After you get your students assigned to something, make sure that you take that moment, because they're going to see how you deal with this. They're going to see how you hold this student accountable. They're going to see how you engage this student, and trust me, even though they may never ever say anything to you, they are well aware of how you are handling that situation. So take a moment, collect yourself before stepping into the hallway to discuss the issue you have with the student and resolving that conflict. This last thing is very important, and I left it out of the hallway conference video because at that time I didn't realize how important it was. It was just something I was doing. I had an administrator point it out to me and say, hey, this is really good. So I guess it's really good, I don't know. But it works because it stresses some very important things to the student. After you've dealt with the altercation, after you've dealt with the problem, after you have resolved the conflict, and the student has come back into the classroom and you've continued with class, eventually, hopefully, the class will end. Make sure as the student is leaving that you say, hey, are we okay? I've never had a student say no. And what this does is it stresses to the student what is important to you, and it's the relationship. And it re-strengthens, rebuilds that foundation that might have taken a bit of a knot a moment ago. I enjoy learning with you, I enjoy teaching with you, and together we can take over the world.